See a tweet from RJ Ochoa, and he's happy about something the Cowboys have done. I know it's a good thing, and he seems happy about the activity from yesterday. This is the Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. I'm Joe. He's Jason.
I'm going to guess RJ not happy with the activities we saw from the Cowboys on Monday night. But let's talk about what Jerry was able to do on Tuesday. RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com on the Buyers Barricades guest line. You know, by law, we don't have to talk about the Monday night crap. So let's talk about how Jerry actually delivered on his words from Monday with a major trade on Tuesday.
Yeah, good for Jerry. He stirred the pot and then pointed to the pot having been stirred and full of soup or pozole or whatever strikes your fancy this time of year, I suppose. I think that the Cowboys are a massive team with a massive following, so you can find anybody acting like a dumbass on Facebook saying X, Y, or Z. But I think the majority of rational people feel and believe that this trade probably does very little to salvage 2025, just because nothing could salvage 2025. But this helps establish a legitimate future for them for the next two seasons, and therefore establishes a window with regards to what will probably be the final years of Dak Prescott's prime. We'll obviously see, but that's an exciting thing. They took a step forward. They finally, like in the Office episode where Michael Scott put on pants, they put on pants by making this trade.
They put on pants. Well, that was nice of them to put on pants, RJ. I appreciate that. I agree with you that this doesn't – I'm not going to say it doesn't help this year, because I think it will help the defense a little bit, but not enough to make any difference as far as a playoff run or anything like that. But I think with a Williams and even the linebacker Logan, I think it at least adds some pieces and helps some parts that they can then in turn, hopefully – in the offseason, add some more pieces to that defense to make it at least a mid-level defense, if nothing else, instead of a bottom feeder.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And look, nobody's going to turn down, a hypothetical where they pull this off and they rally and they make the playoffs. It goes without saying that the most optimistic way that this season is salvaged. And you're right. Look, they're going to be better. That bar's pretty low on defense moving forward. But again, I view this more than anything as an advanced first step with regards to construction on the 2026 team. If it happens to lead to success in 2025, so be it. But I think that you have no other choice but to look at it that way. If you are looking at it as, man, here they go, they're pushing all their chips in on 2025, I don't think you're being fair to reality on any level.
No, and again, I mean, maybe if you got a little slip at Circa with a win total bet, that could still be in play, maybe. But also, I think you do got to give Jerry and Steven and Will McClay a ton of credit for pulling off two trades. I know a lot of people yesterday that listen to this show, both Texans fans, upset that Houston didn't do anything. D'Amico Ryan said today that they tried to do several things that just didn't pan out. And how often have we heard executives say, it's hard to pull off a trade? And, Jerry indicated there could be three. He got two done. The fact that he got two done, give him credit, because it's not easy. People are all over the place on compensation, whether it was a good or bad move by the Cowboys. Where do you stand, RJ Ochoa, on what they gave up yesterday, especially, well, really with just Williams? Because, I mean, a seventh-round pick is what it is.
Yeah, the Logan Wilson trade in a vacuum is an A+, right? I mean, you're turning a throwaway pick into a serviceable veteran, and you have multiple years of team control over him. But I think that where people are tripping over themselves is they're merging this with the Micah Parsons trade. And I understand the need to do that. I understand I wrote an article looking at the net results. I don't believe that was the disposition that the team held. I don't believe that when the Cowboys traded Micah in August, they said, okay, this is step one. Just wait till the first week in November, and you're really going to see our grand results. I think that they are a team that has been rudderless. I told you both last week, and I used to say it on the morning huddle, they have operated without a singular North Star. And so if we establish that they have one finally and view the Quinnen Williams trade as the first kind of, packing up the tent and starting to hike that direction, I think that the fact that they didn't have to give up any of their first-round draft picks in 2026 is a huge win. And look, they had to give up their second-round draft pick, and that sucks, but that's mitigated by the fact that they have multiple firsts. And I think that they'll probably, at least they would be wise to consider trading back with the second of those first-round selections and turn it into more picks, especially because they don't have a third-round selection by way of the George Pickens trade. Is it ideal that they had to officially declare that the better of their two first-round draft picks in 2027 will be one that goes to the Jets? No. But again, the plan, at least theoretically, is to be good next year. You don't want to bet against yourself. You can't bet against the Green Bay Packers. You can't control that. That's out of your control. So I think that what they did and what they paid is fair. This is a team, again, that has established a 2-year window now. And in that window, they have 3 first-round draft picks to help make everything come together.
Well, again, I give Jerry a lot of credit because I didn't think he was going to do anything when push came to shove. I lost a 12-pack of Flight by Yingling because of that. But just because they typically don't do that. I mean, the last time they did it was Amari Cooper, 8 years ago? Something like that. And so anyway, but I'm happy that the fact that the trades were made, that they weren't rentals. They weren't stuff just to give fans a glimmer of hope for this year, that it is something for the future. So I give Jerry Jones all the credit. And RJ, the reason I say that is because I've seen so many people, even national pundits, saying, well, this does him no good. And Quinnen Williams, his play has declined over, the last couple of years and this and that. And I'm like, can we just give Jerry a pat on the back and move on and enjoy our day?
Well, multiple things can be true, to be very clear here. Now, I agree with you that Jerry deserves credit for pulling something off, and whether it was the intention or not, something that helps them for the foreseeable future. I do absolutely believe that this was a desperate grasp for attention. I fully believe that the Cowboys and Jerry said we have to do something. They just couldn't help themselves. The fact that it helps their team may just have been a plus with regards to their true intention. As far as the national media is concerned, it's obviously beneficial and fruitful to hate on the Cowboys and to bag on the Cowboys. And I think that too many national analysts, surprisingly, are taking the low-hanging fruit. Too many people are saying, well, this doesn't make sense because you traded away Micah Parsons. Hell yeah, we know it doesn't make sense. Like, welcome to Looney Tunes. Like the Tasmanian Devil's in the corner. The Daffy shines your shoes on the way in. Like, we all understand that nothing about where we are makes sense. When you're this far down the rabbit hole, you have said goodbye to reality, logic, and reason many moons ago. So understanding that that's the case and looking at a vacuum, it's a fine trade. But yeah, if you look at the Micah of it all, and especially the Sauce Gardner trade and him going for similar compensation, it's very easy to say, well, they didn't have a plan. Yeah, no crap, they didn't have a plan. That's been their problem for a very long time now.
Very, very true. RJ Ochoa, bloggingtheboys.com. We still have to play out the rest of this season. And my expectation for the defense is, well, they suck. So there isn't one, right? My expectation for this offense is they've got to go score 40 points a game for the Cowboys to have a chance. The last 2 weeks, the offense has been awful. Monday night, it was awful against a Cardinals team that, quite frankly, how did they not score 40 points? What is going on with this Dallas Cowboys offense?
I think we've all been in situations where we've had to get creative, right? Like, Jason's one of the best grillers I know, maybe the best. Joe's one of the best selector of cereals I know, maybe the best. And sometimes people in situations like that do their best work when ingredients are shy, and you have to get creative. And I think we saw the offense at its peak in that sense when CeeDee Lamb was out, right? Because CeeDee's out, you got to work harder, you got to get craftier, you got to think a little bit outside the box. And I think that things become, they get a little bit on autopilot when it's a matter of, well, dude, we've got CeeDee, we've got George, we've got Jake Ferguson, Cooper Beebe's back in this game. He's so good that Jerry and Steven are still calling him Tyler Badass. And we've got everything working our way here that we don't even have to really try that hard. And so I think you can lump it up into a little bit of complacency. I think you can also acknowledge that they had some moments where they got shook early in both those games. The first possession against Denver after the Bo Nix interception, having to settle for a field goal when it looked like a touchdown was going to happen, and then outright going for it against Arizona and getting no points. And they are an offense that has to punch from ahead and maybe a little bit of a front runner in that respect. And so you've got to be willing to do things that aren't just the first 15 plays that you scripted. And you have to do more than just rely on your superstars to be great. You have to coach things up. And I don't think that Brian Schottenheimer did the best job of that the last 2 weeks.
That I agree with. Jake Ferguson hasn't played well the last couple of games. What I didn't like the other night, and tell me if you noticed this too, CeeDee Lamb seemed lazy on a couple of passes where he could have helped his quarterback out, and he didn't come back for the football. He just stood there and waited on it. He knows better than that, and it gave the defender an opportunity to break those passes up. That concerns me a little bit because those are just effort plays, and I didn't like the way CD performed in those two instances that I know about.
I think you can say that was the case for the entire team on Monday night. Monday felt very heavy for the Cowboys. And look, none of what I'm about to say justifies a lack of effort. I want to be very clear here. But Jerry going on Stephen A's Sirius show, wherever it was, and saying, we have a trade. I mean, the whole thing felt, I'm not a WWE fan, and that's not a knock on it, but it felt very WWE-like. It felt so Dallas Cowboys, and it felt like the ring master just, saying, we've got 2 bearded ladies here tonight, everybody, and everybody wanting to be a part of the show. And so I think that they just kind of played with that heaviness, and that was exemplified in the lack of effort. And again, you can certainly say, hey, we're paying you this much, we expect this much, you have to find a way. Sorry, the owner acts the way that he does, whatever. But I do imagine that we'll see a more motivated team when they return on Monday Night Football, because they'll have had the boost that comes with this trade and the boost of a belief and everything that's been so heavy hanging over them really since the Micah trade. This is their first opportunity to kind of take a break and get away from the whole circus. I think they'll come out of things refreshed, and we'll see the effort pick up in that sense.
As we talk about that with RJ Ochoa from logintheboys.com, it might all of that. But most of those guys are used to life as a Dallas Cowboy. So the circus is the circus, right? And I look at that game, and I know it's November, but must win, because you win that game, you're what, 4-4-1, and you're right in the thick of things to still keep your playoff hopes alive. After you've seen Jaden Daniels get hurt, he's out for the season. Cam Scatterbu out for the season. The Giants for a minute looked like they could end up being a play. Now they're not. Like, things were breaking their way had they won. With the loss, you feel like you got to run the table to give yourself a shot, and we all know they aren't going to run the table. And I could see them getting 4 wins, maybe 5 wins, giving us enough hope where, those final 2 weeks, can they, and what's going to happen, right? I mean, I just felt like that game, they had to know that as well, and they come out and they lay an egg like a real playoff game, because that's what they do when the real playoffs roll around.
I think that's really well said, and I do think that they will show some sort of rally. It's difficult to not draw comparisons to 2018 when they traded for for Amari, as Joe mentioned. At the time of that trade, they were 3-4. They had just lost to Washington, and then they came out and actually lost their first game with him. That was Jason Witten's return as a broadcaster, a career that went very well for him. And they fell to 3-5 and then ripped off 5 wins in a row, including wins at Philadelphia, at Atlanta, when the Falcons were still rocking and rolling. And obviously the Eagles were defending Super Bowl champions at that particular point in time. I'm saying that that's happening right now. And the Eagles are 6-2 right now, which is an important factor with regards to winning the division. But this team, I think we all know, is destined to finish 8-1. Like, they're going to finish an even Steven 500. And I know that you all might be thinking, how are they going to get 5 more wins? They're going to play Washington once more. They're going to play New York once more. That's 2. They're probably going to beat the Raiders. They're already early, odds have them as 3.5-point favorites. Now we're up to 6. You got to find 2 somewhere else. I think we all thought they'd split the series with the Eagles when the season began. Let's say that happened. I recognize that now we're having to stretch a little bit there. Could they beat the Vikings? Could they beat the Chargers? Could they beat both of those teams? I don't know. They probably lose to both the Lions or Chiefs. Like, my point is, it isn't the most inconceivable thing ever to see them winning 8 games. And that's what it feels like. It feels like they're going to have a resurgent second half of the season. And then the entire offseason is going to be a discussion of hope and cope. And look how we rallied after the trade. Even if they don't sneak into the playoffs as a wild card, whatever the case may be. Now we've got these guys, we've got these multiple first-round draft picks, and that's going to be the energy that gets us into 2000.
My problem with that, RJ, is my slip from Circa Las Vegas that I got there in August. is over 8.5 wins, and you got to 8. I need one more. Can you find me one more win in there so I can cash that and pay rent this month?
Well,
I'm kidding.
let me
It's not that much.
Well, here, like, this is the way that things get crazy, because for the most part, I know that people think that Cowboys fans act ridiculous, but there are those people who wear the foam, cowboy hats and whatnot. If you want to wake those dudes up, I mean, I think we all think they'll beat the Raiders, right? And I think that, you don't have to squint very hard to see them beat.
I thought they were going to beat Arizona. So I don't know.
Well,
I'm not going to give you the Raiders just yet. Okay, go ahead.
But let's say they beat the Raiders, and let's say they do beat the Eagles. They're at home, whatever. Again, it's a little bit difficult to ask right now, but it's happened before. So now they're 5-5-1, and they come home, or stay home rather, to host the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day. Imagine that Black Friday. If they were to the Chiefs and get north of 500, they'd be riding a 3-game winning streak. We would not be able to hold the foam hat dude down. I mean, they would be them boysing their way all through the holiday season, and then they'd get destroyed by the Lions on Thursday Night Football and bring everybody back down
here. That's a perfect Cowboy scenario, if I've ever heard one.
It's happening.
The foam hat guys.
Those guys, yeah.
Look, hey, everybody needs that group of people in their walk of life. Ours is Cowboys fans, and we've got those guys, and good for them. I couldn't really, I could barely handle the Yoshi hat that I was wearing last week when I was trick-or-treating with my son. So it's not an easy thing to do, I should say.
One more question, RJ, because I heard Jerry say it again yesterday about DeMarvion Overshown. I heard Shotty say that he expects Overshown and Ravel both to be playing ball against the Raiders. I'm a little concerned about both of those guys and the expectations that maybe not Cowboy fans, but Jerry and company have put on those guys. And I'm having a hard time seeing it.
I think that's very fair. And I do think it will translate to fans, because those foam hat wearing dudes, they're the ones that are hearing Jerry say Overshown's going to save us. And so when he comes back from this devastating injury and isn't Superman, they're going to say, this dude sucks. Why are you saying so awesome? And so Overshown and Ravel are going to be the ones who have to pay the price for those sins. That's the Cowboy way, right? Is we're going to depend on our superstars. We're going to make sure that you get treated that way. But there is another side to that coin. And if Overshown plays well, if Ravel plays well, all the more power. They're both coming back from serious injuries, to be very clear here. And Ravel has not played ever in the NFL. Overshown has barely played in the NFL. And we act like it's just a lock that they're going to come in and be significant contributors. But that does speak to how quickly things can change, because you're talking about a second half of a season that's going to feature Logan Wilson, Quinnen Williams, DeMarvion Overshown, Savon Ravel, dudes who were not a factor literally throughout the first half of the campaign.
RJ, all that great memorabilia on the shelf there is behind you. How many foam hats are in your office right now?
I don't think I've ever had a foam hat. I've definitely had foam fingers in some. I know I got one at a Super Bowl with y'all, like with the credit card.
Yeah, that's a Visa one. I mean, the Cowboys foam hat. Now, I don't believe that you don't have one. I got to believe there's a foam hat in there somewhere.
I actually, Jason knows I used to work at a Cowboys pro shop. I used to hate when people would buy them because they didn't fit in the bag. It was very awkward and clunky to try to, process it and everything. Also, it didn't have a label. There was a special book that had a label for it because the stickers wouldn't stick to it. So maybe I'm realizing right now I've just got a prejudice against these hats from my own personal experience.
I think that's it. Although I wouldn't wear a foam hat either, RJ.
I just don't believe that you don't have one. You might have hated selling them, when we first met, when you were working over at Fans United way back in the day. But the reality is, you've got one. You probably saw those come in, modeled them. These are cool, and took a couple home.
I've had a beanie before that is kind of like a helmet. That's the furthest I've gone. Like that's the farthest I can walk with you on that. But again,
somebody out there is going to find a foam hat and send it to you.
Imagine getting in the car with that on. I mean, what does that process look like? I mean, I want to know. That would be very difficult. Imagine going to the bathroom, standing in line for the urinal, and you're wearing that thing. You're behind the guy, and he's turning, he's checking phone, he's bumping it into you. That would suck.
It sucks sitting behind a guy in the foam hat too,
Well,
but they are.
Do they let you wear a foam hat in the stadium? Because they've banned sombreros here at the Frost Bank Center.
Well, that's just for that one guy, apparently.
I'm just saying.
Well, it's true.
That's
But
not foam. It's a very different thing. The materials matter, Joe.
yeah. Well, it depends on if it's a sponsored foam hat or not.
I just want to see the damn game, and if I'm sitting behind either one of those dudes, I'm screwed.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we have raised awareness to this. You know what I mean? Because I think the next person who's considering wearing something to a Spurs game or a Cowboys game, just be considerate. The best sign I've ever seen that someone ever held up said, "The guy behind me can't see." So just think about that guy when you're wearing one of those instructions.
Although an idea for Jerry to make money, and let's put it all out there because in the Ethernet, because he's gonna come up with this, because he got fined a lot of money for a couple of real fingers, half a peace sign, couple of half a peace signs in New York. They sell the foam finger number ones, but should they sell to help Jerry pay that fine a couple of foam fingers with the other finger?
That's true. And that game was against the Jets. So
yes.
Maybe it was in anticipation of, we're about to take your guy, Quentin Williams. Watch
out.
Birds up.
Yeah. All right.
Good stuff.
I said Jason's the best griller I know. Joe's the best cereal picker. You guys should combine those strengths. So Joe should pick a cereal that Jason has to grill something in connection to. That's y'all's episode of Chopped.
Well, I tell you what we'll do.
Smoky frosted flakes.
I'll make breakfast.
That sounds awesome.
Minix can make lunch. How about that? That's a good combo.
I will accept that. That's good to go.
Smoky? What kind of cereal?
Captain Crunch with crunch berries.
Is that you still eat that after the Spence experience?
Well, as long as I know Spence isn't around, yes, I do.
I like to imagine Joe eating Captain Crunch when he's bored at home.
Oh, it's great without milk. You can eat that either way.
Oh, what a psycho. What
either way.
Get out of here.
RJ Ochoa, bloggingtheboys.com. We'll talk to you next week, my friend. RJ Ochoa and all our guests on the Buyers Barricades guest line, where they provide traffic control, rental, and sales for San Antonio and beyond, online at buyersbarricades.com.